Welcome back, everyone, to the Complete Pine Leaf. It is now dark here in the green fields in the Shire, and Bingo and his cousin and various first cousins once removed are all ready to tell some stories. Right, Bingo? This is the perfect night to share spooky stories, Pineleaf, even better than I hoped. Many of my cousin Priska's children have told me that they have their own stories ready to share, and I have one of my own as well. Bolster your courage, my friend, and let us celebrate the scary spirit of the season. Alright, so you can choose who gets to share the first story, Pineleaf. Which story would I like to hear? I wonder what Priska has to say. Oh, I don't know very many spooky stories, but I'm certain one of my children will be happy to go first. Ah, well, how about Marigold? I'm sure she's come up with all sorts of things with all of her adventuring. I overheard the story when I was very little, and it made quite an impression. Oh, I'm sure it did. I vowed never to let fear be the master of me, and so far it hasn't, and it won't. Some hobbits could still learn that lesson, I'd say. Long ago, a wealthy hobbit named Longo Proudfoot lived alone in a fancy manor in Mickle Delving. He enjoyed expensive things and employed many servants, and it was a poorly kept secret that he did not treat them very well. He enjoyed the food they prepared for him, but he was consumed with distrust, and he feared they would sneak into the pantry and steal the ingredients within for their own families. So it was that Longo had strong locks and heavy bars installed on his pantry, and carried the only keys. When it was time for his servants to prepare his dinners, he would march them to the door, carefully unlock everything, and stand by watching while they removed what they needed. He carefully marked the quantities of each foodstuff, and it seemed more that he was being withdrawn than was necessary. He had strong words at the ready. This continued for some time, but still Longo was certain that his servants were stealing his food. I can't say for sure, but it seems to me that the extreme measures he used to prevent it must have inflamed his servants' desire to perpetuate some thievery. But that might just be my perspective as a rebellious hobbit. At any rate, there came a day when Longo's suspicions were at their greatest level, and he called all of his servants into the sitting room. I am no longer have need of your services, he proclaimed, and dismissed them all. Go steal from someone else's larder, he cried, as they steamed from the manor. Oh, he as they streamed for the manor, yes. That night, as Longo lay in his bed, he found that his suspicions had not been eased by dismissal of his servants. On the contrary, now he was worried they would not be bound by loyalty and might break into his manor to gain access to his pantry. Where are his keys? Ah, there they are. Still, they might have been performed the deed and replaced his keys when they had done so. Longo hurried to the pantry and found the many locks as he had left them earlier in that day. He unlocked every one and threw open the door, revealing shelf upon shelf of useful ingredients and foodstuff. As he went inside for a closer look, he brushed the door by mistake, and it swung shut behind him. If he had not been so focused on counting the bags of flour and inventorying his pickling jars, he might have heard the heavy bar fall into place outside the door, but he did not. What? He employed auto locking doors. Well, I guess that paranoia could get him that, all right. No one knows how long it took before anyone noticed they had not seen Longo Proudfoot set foot from his manor for some time, for he had told his servants not to return, and he had no friends or family to check in on him. He might have lasted for quite some time in that well stocked pantry, but in the end, after all, does it really matter if it was days or if it was months? But hobbits in the Shire have reported feeling of discomfort in their own pantries late at night, as if they were being watched from behind the shelves, and some folk have claimed to see eyes peering out of them from between the bags and boxes, eyes full of jealousy and distrust. The eyes of Longo Proudfoot. Well, that was certainly something. Oh, who should go next? Well, all right, so I have a choice. Well, obviously, I will assume that Priska will say someone else will go second. Yes, I had a feeling that would be the case. Well, then, let's see. What does Dina have to say? Because Dina can't have much of one considering how he seems to debunk every single spooky story there is. I think I have made myself very clear, Pineleaf. I am not telling a story. Pick someone else. Well, that is at least consistent with him. Let's see, we have Esmeralda. Hmm. Marillac. How about Angelica, the animal lover? Many, many years ago, long before our family trees had been so much sprouted, there was a small village on the banks of the Brandywine, not far from where Stock is located today. One of the prominent figures of the village was a man named Gerd Goodcliff. He had been the respect of its neighbors and had consulted about many of the matters that faced the town. It was widely held that when the time came for the mayor to step down, Gerd would easily be chosen to take his place. One day, Gerd was walking along the reeds of the river's edge when he heard a small voice among the rushes. How curious, he thought to himself, and he squatted down in the mud to find the owner of the voice. Finding nothing, he prepared to stand once again. But before he could, a large black cat padded out of the reeds. Well, hello there, he greeted the cat, and turned to go. Hello yourself, it said to him. Gerd was most surprised, for this was the first time a cat has ever spoken to him. Once he recovered himself, he found that the cat was not simply talkative, but quite friendly as well. It introduced itself as Green Eyes, and said that it came from a far-away land in search of a home. Gerd was happy to offer Green Eyes such a place at his own humble burrow, and Green Eyes contributed to his own way, keeping mice and other undesirables away from Gerd's pantry. In time, Green Eyes proved capable at finding much more than mice. He would stalk through the village, creeping into the half-open windows and pushing open the unlatched doors. He learned many interesting rumors and overheard much gossip about the hobbits of the town, and he recounted such delicious morsels that Gerd with it delight. Yes, Gerd began to look upon his neighbors with distaste and distrust, and he found he could no longer stand to engage in conversation with them. He became cold and distant, and other hobbits avoided him when they saw him on the road, crossing to the other side rather than speak with him. When they returned to their homes, Green Eyes would follow behind and listen while they called Gerd off putting, odd and unfriendly. The cat recounted these stories to Gerd with regret, and his tail twitched back and forth happily. I don't need these liars as friends anyway, Gerd told him one day. I have you, Green Eyes, and you're the only friend this hobbit needs. Green Eyes nodded, his tail twitching. Not long afterwards, a day came when Gerd could not find Green Eyes anywhere. Despairing, and certain that one of his neighbors had done some harm to his friend, he ran screaming out into the center of town. Folk watched his raving progress through the village, and the whispers were no longer hushed or hidden. Madly Gerd ran down the banks of the river, and there at last he found his friend. Green Eye stood among the reeds, and with his two front paws he pushed a small boat out into the river. He clambered onto it and turned back and faced Gerd as it floated out on the current. Why, Green Eyes, why must you leave? Gerd called out to him. Green Eyes did not respond, but only watched him silently until the current bore him away and out of sight. No one knows what happened to Gerd Goodcliff after that, but he never came back to town, and he never became mayor. But there are some who say that if the moon is high in the sky, like it is tonight, you might catch a glimpse of Green Eyes on his boat, floating away down the river, his tail twitching, twitching, twitching. So you see, a black cat, stay away. It might be Green Eyes. Nonsense! These stories are all rubbish! Not at all. It is my turn. I have a good story to tell. Right. You have a good story to tell. All right. The story I'm about to tell is older than each of the others we have heard tonight, for it dates from the earliest days of the Shire and is recorded only in very few places. I found it in a book that Pineleaf retrieved from the library of the Grey Smiles, but it seems to me that there were few copies that book ever made. Once I tell the story, it will live on, and you shall all remember it. Even in the earliest days of the Shire, festivals were already of importance to our distant ancestors. We were boffins even then? I'd like to think so, although I have not seen a family tree that extends back that far. Certainly some branches of our family trees bear similar names to those earliest inhabitants of the Shire, and I have seen accounts of Esmeraldas, Marigolds, Griffos, and Foscos, but I'm getting a little distracted. A young girl by the name of Menegilda desired to win a dancing competition, but her chief rival, one Peony, excelled at the art and bested her in every opportunity. Menegilda was obsessed with winning the great prize, and she became convinced that Peony owed her success to the violet shoes that she always wore. Menegilda hatched a plan to steal those shoes. She surprised Peony on the banks of the Brandywine and demanded that she hand over the shoes. Peony refused and said that there was a spell on those shoes. They would work only as her command, and they would do Menegilda no good at all. Menegilda was not dissuaded. In fact, the revelation that the shoes were enchanted filled her with happiness. At last, an explanation for her continued failure to beat Peony at dancing. Peony removed the shoes and threw them at her rival. Fine then, she said. Have them. I will tell my father what you've done, and you won't be allowed to dance at all. This was a mistake. But Peony did not understand the rage that seethed within Minigilda's heart. Minigilda charged at her with her arms raised, and she pushed Peony into the river. She never surfaced. Minigilda put on her stolen shoes and returned to town. There were whispers, but no one had seen her encounter with Peony, and it was believed that Peony may have run away, seeking her fortune beyond the borders of the Shire. Minigilda did not care. Her every thought was bent on winning the next dance contest. A few nights later, Minigilda wore her new shoes and danced on the stage before the assembled hobbits. Everyone cheered and applauded, for they had never seen such dancing before, not even when Peony had participated. Minigilda was the clear winner. And yet, something was wrong. Someone tried to present Minigilda with the winning ribbon, but she merely continued to dance. Everyone applauded again, but she showed no sign of stopping. I think that's enough, dear, someone called, but now there were tears streaming down from Minigilda's face, and the assemblage came to understand that she wanted to stop, but could not. Folk rushed to the stage and sought to remove the violet shoes, but they wouldn't come off. Megilda's feet flew left and right, here and there, but even when she fell into a stupor, the dance continued. At last, it stopped. But Minigilda's dancing days were done. The shoes were packed in a box, and it was sealed away, hidden in a dusty corner of a forgotten burrow. Hobbit spoke for a time of Minigilda and the cursed shoes, but eventually the story passed into legend, and folk doubted that it had ever really happened, even as they feared to speak of it. And that's why hobbits never wear shoes. That's not true. That can't be true. How do you know? It's all rubbish. All these stories are nonsense. Yes, nonsense. Well, it's interesting you should say that, Dino. Because I went and had a chat with Brombard Foxtail at the Matham House. And he did some digging around and he found the very same shoes from the story. And here they are. What? What? No, I don't believe it. And yes, can it be? There's no way that those are the same shoes. Does anyone want to try them on? I'll do it. I'm not afraid. Of course, Esmeralda would want to do it. Esmeralda, are you sure? I'm not scared, Mother. There you go. And she's in purple shoes now. They fit perfectly. There we go. Well, of course she's dancing, but then we're talking about her. See, nothing to worry about. All right, Esmeralda, you should probably take them off now. I can't stop! Well, Esmeralda, no! Pineleaf, help her! Trying to remove shoes. The shoes won't come off. No! Esmeralda! It's all true! It's all true! Well, okay. Well, it looks like... What, someone had a joke on her? Because it looks like as soon as he left, Esmeralda stopped dancing. What fun! What do you think, Pineleaf? It seems to me that Esmeralda should try acting at the Frostbuff Theater. That was a convincing performance. I'd say we certainly gave Dino a taste of the season, wouldn't you? Oh, it's all for good fun. He'll be fine. He just needed a good scare. We wouldn't have carried out the trick if Priska hadn't given us her permission, and she thought it might do some good, just as we did. It is the season for scares, after all. Hmm. Okay. That was quite a night, Bingo. Ah, yes, that was great fun, Pineleaf. I think we finally managed to frighten the unfrightenable. The spirit of the scare is still alive and well in the Shire, despite rumor to the contrary. Hmm. You had better go and check out Dino. We don't want him falling into any trouble on our account, after all. Denotus ran off to the northwest. He's probably laughing about it now, although he'd never admit to that. All right, fine. I'll look for Dinotus. Hello there, Dinotus. Are you all right? That was horrible, Pineleaf, and very mean. I expect a full apology. You should not go around trying to scare people for no reason. Well, Bingo believed that you might enjoy the Harvest Festival more if you let yourself be scared from time to time. Bingo thinks nothing scares me. I've become a victim of my own acting skills, Pineleaf, and gave too fine a performance. Do you remember when we explored the haunted burrow? I worked so hard to see through the spooky atmosphere and lay it bare as a sham, but deep down I was full of fear. Every bump, every sudden movement, every deep shadow seemed to promise some new form of terror. Foolish Pineleaf, I don't fear nothing. I fear everything. Hmm. You Now you know my secret shame, and I trust that you will keep it to yourself. It all began some time ago when I offered to walk Celadine Brandenburg back to her home after a dinner party my mother hosted. Celadine was very happy to have the company, but as we began to walk, I saw that the hour was much later than I had thought. The night was dark, and the shadows were deep, and my blood ran cold at every creepy sound. I knew if I did not do something, Celadine will know me for a coward. Cried disaster! In order to mask my fear, I adopted a brazen attitude and mocked every fear that I felt. It was all an act at which I had become all too well practiced. Still, Bingo is my cousin, and that was a mean trick for any family member to perform at any remove and no matter the distance. Speaking of distance, I was on my way back to the green fields when you caught up with me. I turned around because I heard something scary, and I dropped my pack and I ran back this way. Do you think you could retrace my steps to the northwest and find my pack? I don't think I have the courage to go back and look for it. All right, I will see if I can find your pack to the northwest. All right, fine. That will be about that way, I think. I think we're getting close to where he must have dropped it. Unnatural blue fire blazes in the darkened wood. What the? Well, I could see why it scared him. What are you doing here? There can be no reparations for the hurt that has been done. There can be none. Soon all will fear the parting of the wood. None will escape the curse of the eerie acres. Despair and repair to your holes, for none but one will laugh when all is done. The vision did stop speaking, and all is cold. Well, That was strange. I must admit, I have no idea what a fell spirit was doing in the Shire. Bingo has come here and he apologized for the trick, and all is well now, and we don't need to discuss that thing I told you, Pineleaf, all right? Good. Oh, what was it anyway? Actually, perhaps you should tell Cousin Bingo. I don't think I need to hear about it. I don't believe in that sort of rubbish. No, no, indeed. Well, when you consider the number of fell spirits I have battled against, I certainly believe those things exist. I apologize to Dinadus for the scary trick, but I think it did him some good. Now, what has whirled you up in such confusion? What? Is this some sort of joke? Or is it a trick going you're on? You really say that you saw this thing? Yeah, I've seen such things in the past. Oh, what fun! A mysterious apparition has appeared in the wood. How delightful! I simply must see it for myself. Let's go, Pineleaf. Ah. I don't see it around anymore. Well, apparently it decided to go away. It's gone? I am disappointed, but that is just makes me even more curious about it. What's going on here, Pineleaf? What does Dinadus think? Perhaps afterwards you can circle around to that building on top of the hill and see some sign of the apparition. There, there was nothing here? That makes it even more scary. I don't like this Pineleaf. I mean, it's all nonsense, of course. Yes, there was nothing to begin with. That is very cruel of you to pretend otherwise. All right, let me climb the hill. I don't see anything unusual up here. You stand at the top of the room but see no sign of the spectral apparition. Well, it appears there's nothing. Nothing! Nothing up there. You didn't see anything. I'm not surprised. Whatever it was, it clearly does not want to be seen again. I wonder why. My mind is full of questions, Pineleaf. This is truly an autumnal mystery. I need some time to think it over. I will meet you back at the party tree. This wood has become very spooky, and while Dinadus may not fear anything, I have to confess that this place has given me the chills. I love it! But perhaps we should head back to Hobbiton all the same. Ah, it feels much more safe here. I'm very excited about this autumnal mystery, Pineleaf. I have read many scary stories, and they always delight my imagination, but I've never been involved in one myself. Tell me once again what the ghostly fellow had said. Hmm. There can be no reparations for the hurt that has been done. Soon all will fear the parting of the wood. None will escape the curse of the eerie acres. Despair and repair to your holes, for none but one will laugh when all is done. Do I have that right? I have to admit that I don't know what any of this means, Pineleaf, but it sounds to me like we'll have to figure that out quickly. I'll do some thinking, and it sounds to me that we have a little bit more to do, but I can't wait when we figure it out. All right, I guess not. So, what is the mystery? We'll have to investigate that in the next episode of The Complete Pineleaf.